Oh, it's that time. Right. Anywho, you know who it is. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympian Multimedia. And I am here for your viewing pleasure, viewing delight, to give you another segment of BAM! Get Things Done. In this particular segment, we're going to be discussing something that people have enlightened me on. That kind of surprised me on why I haven't made an episode based on this topic. Because I was informed to me, because they're like, Zeus, you do a lot of interviews. But how come you never did an episode on Get Things Done about how to do an interview? So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about just the basics of setting up, if that is what you're about to get into, is start interviewing. So if you have checked out the video series, you check out our YouTube channel, I have interviewed a plethora of different types of people, all different backgrounds, from different types of artists, authors, musicians, entrepreneurs, so forth and so on. Had some really great, insightful, meaningful, informative interviews discussing their craft and discussing all the things that make them great, make them who they are, right? So if you're going to do your interview in studio, I just wanted to highlight a few things that you should keep in mind before you go about conducting your interview. So if you notice around, again, we're in studio. And obviously you can see a few things that are set up. So again, these are just things to keep in mind to ensure that your interview goes right. All right. So number one with the interview is you're going to need to get an understanding of the person that you're interviewing. Get an understanding of their art form. Get an understanding if they're an entrepreneur, right? Understand their business. It's going to entail a little bit of doing some research on your own as well, based off information given from the person, and then what you do on your own, so you know the ins and outs of their business. If they're some type of artist, whether an author, musician, a painter, whatever their art form is, get an understanding of that as well. Especially if, like, for example, if they're an author, as you see today, you're seeing the setup of a great segment that I had with Rebecca Bone, co-founder and editor and author from Blue Jay Press. Check out for the video. Look out for the video. It's going to be coming soon. So this is pretty much the setup that we had to do our interview and do our segment. So it would make sense, in this case with an author, for example, is to have their books. Whether they only wrote one book or several books, it might be in your best interest to have that on display. If they're a musician of some sort, maybe you can display their CD, right? Or something that alludes to maybe like their album cover or something to their art form. Whatever their art form is, have that on display so people can have a visual to go along with the person that you're interviewing. Another good habit, too, to keep things professional and ensure that your interview has the flow that it needs so it's still interesting and captivating. You might want to develop an outline. As you can see here, this is Rebecca's copy. This is my copy. And it doesn't have to be very in-depth as far as what kind of elements and components that you need for the outline. You just need a basic overview of how the interview is going to go about. So if you notice on this outline, I have the title. I usually have a moniker or some kind of theme that goes along with the segment title. Make sure you outline who's going to be a part of it, of the interview or the segment that you're doing. It's not really mandatory, but it's always good to have some type of purpose. Allow the person to have some kind of understanding of what it is they're about to be interviewed on. You definitely don't want to put them on the spot and start asking them questions that maybe they're not comfortable with, or to discuss certain things that maybe, is unsettling to them. They rather not talk about. So that's why it's another good reason why to have the outline. And then if you notice, I have the format. In this particular segment, it was broken down into 4 parts. And then if you notice, with each part, I just break down a very quick overview involving that. Usually involves a mixture of different statements, different concepts that I feel is important for us to talk about, or at least mention during the segment. And then I'll have some questions on there as well. And then if you notice too, I'll have some notes to give a little bit more added information as far as where we're going to be uploading the video, how we're going to film it, whether it's going to be in studio or virtually. And then just some action items as far as the formatting, the structure in which we're going to lay out the set, just so they can have a kind of an understanding as well, and to allow them to be comfortable. They're not going into something that they're not really familiar with. I do recommend for whoever I'm interviewing or doing a video segment with, they can have their notes with them. I know sometimes you just need that as a point of reference real quick. Most of my guests do a great job of looking over the questions and the outlines that I give them. But sometimes they just need that added reassurance, that point of reference. These are Rebecca's notes. So if you notice, there were some certain things that we deleted that wasn't going to be part of the segment. But then she writes down her own individual notes pertaining to each part and to each question that I ask. And again, you want to make the person that you're interviewing comfortable. They may not be in the situation they're going to remember the questions, or at least how they're going to answer them. So as much as you want it to be fluent and organic, sometimes you should allow that option for your person that you're interviewing to have the notes in front of them. Now, as far as the set is concerned, if you notice, we got the lighting set up. Lighting is very important. You want to create a mood that coincides with the nature and the overall ambience of the interview or video segment. That includes your backdrop. If you notice, Rebecca is an author. She's also a book editor. She has her own book publishing company. So it makes sense to have a backdrop that coincides with that, right? It goes to the point of whatever their art form is, to have that on display. Your backdrop should be the same. You notice we got a whole library of books up here, or shelves of books. It just makes sense. You come over here, you notice the gears. The gears are always working within the mind, right? So she was being informative based off the questions that were given her to discuss the process when it comes to editing, and how someone who's in position to publish their book, she broke down the different steps that coincides with that. And it all work with keeping your gears circulating, within your mind onto your next idea. And then if you notice, it's color coordinated. Definitely keep that in mind as well. Color coordination is very important. You don't want it to be so outlandish to the point where the people that are viewing are concentrating more on that than the actual segment itself or the interview itself, right? Get imaginative, get creative, man. Don't hold yourself back. Add some wall art, some different types of lighting, just to add a little bit more texture. Go ahead and add yourself something that will highlight either the title or what the actual topic or concept of your segment is. Put that on display. You're a brand yourself. incorporate your brand into the segment as well. You notice, bam, we got some get things done right there. We have that word with the world set right there as well. And you guys know I love to read. I'm an author myself, so we got the book set up here, man. And you know I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, right? So you could just add some subtleties that add some nice little nuances and textures to your set, right? And then as you notice, right back to what I mentioned before, you know, you want to keep with the overall color scheme, right? Lighting's important. You want to make sure that whatever you're capturing, there's clarity there, right? But you don't want it to be overly bright. And you don't want it to be too shadowy or dark where people can't make out the faces, right? Depending on how many people you're interviewing or who's going to be in your segment, it's all about spacing, right? So if you notice, during our segment, me and Rebecca, I was sitting here. Rebecca was sitting off to my left. You notice right here we have enough spacing between our two, so it doesn't feel really overwhelmed. If you notice the overall set right here, it's not big by any standards. It's not large in proportion or in ratio. But there was only two of us as well, so we didn't need that much space, right? But there's enough between so we can engage with each other, and it doesn't feel like we're on top of each other or like we're in each other's face as we're going through our dialogue and having this discussion, right? So that's important too. Always remember to have enough space, have a nice display, get creative, your brand, show off your brand, show off the show, show off different things of the person, your guest, what their art form is, what they're into. Make sure the lighting is right. Even if you're using wall art that incorporates lighting, make sure it goes with the overall flow of lighting that you have, right? As far as your professional lighting is concerned. And that's about it. These are just things you need to keep in mind. Just remember to prepare yourself and to make sure you have flow. I definitely recommend create that outline. And please send it off to the person that you're doing the interview with so they can get an understanding. They're not surprised by any of the questions. They know beforehand what they're getting into with the interview. And then that gives them time to kind of formulate their answers, right? Have some good lighting. Be creative with your set. Understand spacing so that you can put it into the proper frame as you film. And trust me, if you follow these things, hopefully you have an outstanding interview. So I hope this helps. I hope this was informative. I hope this is you could benefit from this. And definitely, if you end up doing some interviews, I would love to see them. So how about you drop the link in the comments and let me see what you coming up with as far as your interview and how you're structuring it. Maybe we can one day collab. Anywho, thanks for tuning in. You know who it is. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympian Multimedia, presenting you with another segment of Get Things Done. So get things done. Check you later.